I thought about showing people how I make patterns, and I got to looking at it, and I'm an old world pattern maker basically. I don't think showing you guys how I do things would be beneficial from a safety standpoint. I've never used a riving knife on a table saw. I've never used a blade guard over the top of the table saw. We had a 16-inch planer. I got a 12-inch here at home. And sometimes I block the guard over the blade out of the way because it's in my way. So I don't want a bunch of comments about how unsafe I'm doing things or if I'm starting to show you how to build patterns. As an example, as I was going to show you, this is my idea of a push stick. Now that's a nail in the front end here. It's sharpened up. You can see somewhat here, I think, right there. That's how close I've gotten to the blade with this. It works really good for me. I don't recommend using it for anybody. Biggest thing I ever learned on safety was at all times know where your fingers are in relation to any cutting edge. That includes bandsaw, table saw, whatever, sander, anything that'll hurt you. Be aware of where your fingers are in relation to that blade. So instead of showing you how to do things, what I figured I might do this time is talk about some of the tools a pattern maker would use, but they wouldn't be tools you'd find someplace online or something like that. Or you may find them online, you maybe just want to make one. So I'm going to get into a little bit of the tools I made. I mean, when I first started my apprenticeship, that was in 1973. First thing you do is you build your toolbox, which I won't get into now. That's a whole video on its own, I guess. And I'll go into how I constructed it and what I did with it. So let's get into talking about some of the tools I made to make my job a little easier, and they're all handmade, and we'll go from there. Okay, so let's get into this. Okay, so I'm going to start with the basics first. This is what we call a bent pencil. It allows me to come up underneath something like so to mark it. I have a couple of sizes. This is the biggest of the two. Figured that would be easiest to show. If you're using a pair of dividers or trammel points, you got centers that will fit in a specific hole. That way, if there's already a hole in the pattern, or you drilled a hole for alignment purposes, but you got to swing an arc off it, you can stick this in the hole. It's got a little dimple right there in the end. Not a dimple, little hole. And you swing from that point around the whole part. So you got that. Then, well, these I made first. These are just a bunch of sweeps I made to a specific size of radius. It goes from 1 inch down to, I didn't bring them all in here, but I think the smallest one was a 1/4 inch radius. And that works. And I made some radius gauges. I can use these to check the radiuses on a part. These also go from 1 inch down to basically 9/16 because I already had a set of store-bought radius gauges. For outside corners, I can use this to double check it when I'm carving the radius. And if I got a pattern in and I don't know what the radius is, I can use these to find out. Go from there. For carving the radiuses, I made this. It's just a little plane for putting a radius on. It works good up to about a 3/4 inch radius. Anything bigger than that, I'll use a small block plane. This uses an X-Acto planer blade in here. It's made out of brass. I did that years ago. That was probably about the 3rd year of my apprenticeship. So we got that. For using, well, let's see. This one I also made. We use Dymo labels sometimes for putting marks on the lettering on a pattern. So I made this. Used a 1/4 inch Allen key. Sharpen that up so you can see the whole thing. I think you can see that. Let's see. Yeah. There's that. And I made the brooch for it also using the front end of this Allen key, the longer side. Made a brooch on the lathe, turned it down, put some grooves in it, and just hammered it through to get the hex shape in there. And of course turned a little knob on there. That was kind of a fun little project. I made that one in '77. That was the 4th year of my apprenticeship. We got later on, this was actually given to me, but these were made by another pattern maker. This is what we call a dowel shrinker. Kind of a funny name for something that actually enlarges a hole, but basically if you drill like a 1/2 inch hole, if you drill a 1/2 inch hole, where the pin goes in, that's going to be kind of tight. The other side would be tight too, so you'd actually stick this in the hole and twist it in there. These are slightly elongated, and it'll widen the hole out right up near the top where you need it, and makes everything fit together real nice. Clean. Let's see. Oh, we did a lot of in the foundry work to align parts. I used what they call a bomb sight. I made this one out of some acrylic. I don't know how well you'll be able to see any of this stuff, but basically I ground the lens on here and put crosshairs in the end. I doubt if you'll see any of it, but basically I'd stick this in a bushed hole and line it up with where I want the pattern or the flask to go, or whatever it is we're working on. And once the hole is drilled or put in there and everything's lined up, I'd take this out, put the proper size drill in, and drill into the basically it'd be called the snap, not a snap board, but the pattern board. You know, these were for big things. So I made that. I also, 1st year of my apprenticeship, we need what we call a layout knife. So made this, just a simple knife. 2 pieces of aluminum riveted together with the brass insert in here. And this is so I can adjust it. You can buy the blades off of, I think I got them out of the Freeman catalog at the time. Anyway, still got blades left for it that I haven't even used yet, but this works really good for a layout knife, because everything we did, we used 1/8 inch plywood, and all our layouts were done for the most part, on the smaller jobs anyway, on 1/8 inch plywood. So then we get into, let's see, what else have I got here? Oh, I think Dave the pattern guy covered this. I mentioned to him, this is the mouse. This is the first one I made. I was going to put a couple little ears on it and a tail on it when I first built it, and I said no, that's kind of ridiculous, so I didn't. The little tiny point in here, the point is made from small drill bit, and so it's hardened steel in there. This is the other one. I needed a lower profile, so I made this one. This has got a small hex or Allen key in there. It's been ground down. That works really good. These 2 holes are in here are for if I needed a longer reach. I would screw this to a board like this, and I could reach across a greater distance with it. You know, sometimes a board would be 2-3 feet long. And that worked, and then I decided, well, that's all well and good, but then I've been known to get carried away. So I don't know if you'll see this whole thing, but this is a mouse I made. Actually, I call this a moose, just because it kind of reminds me of that. It's got 4 tips on it. so I can scribe something on this side. So far, come back and scribe something that way, and that worked really good. So I have, well, to put it easy, let's see, where did I put it? There it is. So I got my mouse. This is a carbide tip mini mouse I made right there, and that was for really small jobs. And so I got my mini mouse, and my moose, and that worked. Let's see, I thought there was something else I had in here. I guess I didn't bring it. Okay, but yeah, we'll get into all this stuff later. But as far as showing you guys me working on the equipment like bandsaws, table saws, routers, things like that, I don't think it's something I would show you at this point in time anyway. I am not what would be called the safest pattern maker in the world, but I know other people that do the same thing as me, and knock on wood, we all got our fingers and nothing's cut off. They're all there. Nothing's short. So, that's about it. I may go out and get the other thing I was going to bring in. And I do not recommend using it or making one for yourself unless you're extremely careful. So let me think about that, and maybe I'll go get it. And one more thing before I get off the making the tools thing. Some of you might recognize this. I built this for some friends of mine. They never needed the casting after a while, and I got rid of it. And I got a bug on there. Wow. Stupid animals. Anyway, so this is a pattern for a marking gauge. You'd put a 1/4-inch steel hex steel bar in here. However long you wanted it, it'd be for about an 18-inch long bar. That would be about the max, because it's only going to reach out to about a foot anyway. So this is a pattern for it. There would be a hole drilled through here and a nut up here on top. Got a little dimple in there for the nut. I may make one for me, although I already got some. And this goes on like so. This is the follow board for it. Ram it up, gate into this side here. And should be a good casting. It's all about the same thickness all the way through it, so there's no risers or anything that are required. I'd probably gate into 2 spots, one on each side here, and that's it. So you can make your own tools depending on how readily available they are and what your experience is. These things are not really what I consider hard to make, but I actually like this one better because I put a little finger dimples in here to grab it and mark with. So we'll see how that works out, and I think that's about it for the tools. Okay, so this is the other thing I was going to show you. This is basically my skimmer. I did 3D print this part because I had a wood one in the toolbox, and I just decided to update it a little bit. That's why I'll talk about my toolbox later. So excuse me, some other video. So what this is, built this in, what, 83. It basically uses a skip tooth, 1/4-inch skip tooth blade. It'll take off about 30 thousandths at a time. And you want to use it in a drill press that has a drawbar on it, so you can clamp tight on this, because vibration will drop this thing out on the ground. And along with that, this one uses sanding disc. This will, when I get it down to about 10 thousandths with this one, probably closer to 5 thousandths, I'll use this one to take it down to final dimension. And that works really good. For this one, if you decide to make one, I got no problem with that because these work really good. put a slight taper going in this way. So it's cutting, I don't know if you can see that. It's, where's my ruler? There it is. Oh, let's see. Oh, that'll work. Yeah. Okay, but put a slight taper going that direction toward the center. I think mine's about 15 thousandths. That keeps this outside edge a cutting edge. And as this wears down a little bit, cutting surface will be a little bit further in. But it keeps it a lot cleaner, and you don't have to worry about maybe the center of this catching and throwing your work out of your hand. It's not very likely, but it does work. Let's see, that's about it for these, I think. They work really good. I did lend it to one guy, and he used it exactly the way I told him not to use it. And this blade came out and was swinging around like a knife blade. So I would not recommend making one of these unless you're extremely careful with it. And he wasn't, so luckily he didn't get hurt. So after that, nobody uses it but me. And that's about it for this video, I think. Talk to you later. Bye.